right. Good afternoon, everybody. As Joe said, Sarah Parker here. I lead customer success for the East Coast at UiPath, and I have the pleasure of having Kevin Gandamkar, Senior Lead of Solution Architecture at Lumen Technologies, formerly known as CenturyLink, and Latana Ejiofor, Global Head of Automation at Takeda Pharmaceuticals, with me today. I have to say, when I think about Kevin and Latana and the organizations they come from, they have what I like to call a good problem. And that problem is they come from companies with a very healthy appetite for automation. So much so that the demand from automation that's coming from business units, functions, regions has led both of their organizations to extend their automation supply chain beyond that of a COE and into the space of citizen developers. And while the concept of citizen developers is in no way a new topic, many of you here in the audience might be at a similar juncture. Given that I've worked closely with both of these customers, I can say their approach to how they rolled this out, scaled it, truly is eminent of best practice of how to build, scale, and sustain momentum with the citizen development program. So I am just very flattered to help you guys tell your story and amplify it. So with that, we'll get right into it. So I'd like to kick off with Latana. Latana, coming from Takeda, if you could maybe share a bit about what triggered your foray into citizen development and how did you guys go about building that structurally?
Yeah, hi everyone, delighted to be here. So our journey started approximately 2.5 years ago. Our CEO had an ambition where everyone would have an AI assistant. And one of his tactics that we came up with to do this was actually to build a critical mass of people with that capability. What we then did was kind of like go through what would be the sort of program that would self-sustain itself, a program that would reward people's ambition and efforts. A program that sort of like demystified RPA. So we ended up with something called the Ninja program. As you can see, the Ninja program really is akin to the Lean Six Sigma methodology, where you can progress just from awareness and then make your way all the way to being an expert. What we realized as we created this program was that everyone in the company can actually join the movement, can start from somewhere. It could be basic awareness, right, to actually, building your own bot within using StereoX. But you can also kind of like grow yourself and become a professional developer. So we made sure we had different levels to sort of like, support everyone that wanted to do it. But the one thing that I would say that really stands out in how we approached this was we emphasized community-based training. We felt it was important for people to network and kind of like have mentors and peers without really coming to the IT group for support. That was really something that stood out in the program. So it self-sustains itself.
No, that's great to hear. And if I were to double click on one point, really how we led off is the automation team at Takeda that existed before citizen development became a thing was able to latch on to a company level priority with the CEO himself speaking to investing in the digital skills of his workforce and aligning that to the capabilities of a platform they were building core competency on. And that's just the best of examples of how an automation program can anchor into an existing business priority and strategy. It just created tremendous tailwinds for this program. So thank you for sharing a bit of insight on that. And Kevin, for yourself, Lumen Technologies. Now, I got to tee you up a little bit, right? I was a CSM 3 years ago for then CenturyLink, and I have to call them out as being one of our earliest pioneers in citizen development. I mean, truly writing the book, and to see where they've scaled, the breadth that they have across some 18 plus business units where citizen developers reside is a tremendous testament to what they've built and how they've iterated since they've gone on. So Kevin, with that, if you could maybe talk about structurally how you guys have set it up.
Sure. So we started about 2017, 2018, the whole RPA or automation journey. So the way we have our platform set up is that we have our IT team that handles the more complex projects, and we have our teams, the different COEs, the different business units, that if they're big enough to have their own COEs, that we do the governance under the IT umbrella, but they do their own intake or different aspect of their business. So over the past 3-4 years, we've saved over 3 million full-time employee FTEs. We have over 600 different automations that are running all the time with our unattended bots. And we have over 600 or so citizen developers in the company. So, we're pretty advanced, I guess, compared to some of the other.
Those are great numbers on the board, I have to say. Yeah, but it truly takes a village. I'm looking at the slide.
It takes a lot of time and takes a lot of attention to the details, and fixing what's needs to get fixed, and providing resources to different teams so they can actually be successful in their automation journey as well. Right. Yeah. So one of the reasons, I guess, we have this whole process in place is it helps us with our digital transformation objective. So, for example, when you're using a citizen developer, they're from the business, so they know the day-to-day business operations. They know what problems that they're facing every day. So what that does is they don't have to explain to the IT developers, hey, this is how I do my job every day. They can actually do it themselves. So that shifts the IT resources to IT, and they're doing the lower, less complex automation on their own. But if they do need resources, we do have resources available from IT as well. Also, anything that develop, it becomes our intellectual property. We can continue using it going forward. Since we use our platform is all unattended bots, so as long as it comes into the IT's hands, it becomes part of our IP, and on we go, and they continue to run and generate revenue for us. And another benefit is reducing shadow IT. We're a tech company, and even if you're not a tech company, you'll have people that are they go out there, create their own scripts, automation scripts, they run it on a server somewhere. So we provided a platform for them so they can use that to create it and go in, placing the right guardrails in place so they can be within the IT standards, and with our code review process that we have in place, so they meet the requirements that we put in place. So we don't have any shadow IT out in our company.
Yeah, I know I've heard that term before. When I think about where your programs come over the last 3 years, you guys have gone well beyond the back office in terms of automating business process, and you've done a lot in core business operations. And the point you make around harnessing of frontline innovation. So these citizen developers sit closest to business operations. So there's no better way to glean insight in terms of how do I automate my core business operations unless I have core business operators part of my supply chain. So great. Now, I'd love to dig a little bit in some kind of follow-up questions on what we've heard. When you had your slide up, Latana, 500 citizen developers, 400,000 hours saved, that was done in just a little bit over a year, right? We're not talking Correct. This was 10 years in the making. So what were some of the success factors that contributed to that buildup of momentum around what you guys were doing at Takeda?
Firstly, we had incredible executive support. So our leaders were bought in, and they sponsored the program. I think that went a long ways in kind of getting everyone to be interested, and everyone's aligned on that particular strategy. The second thing that was helpful was making sure that when people went on this journey, there was reward and recognition for doing that, right? I think both of those things, just having those things as part of how you design the program, ensure that we, in some ways, were able to accelerate the transformation.
Very interesting. Yeah, that executive sponsorship, anyone that's worked with me, I'm a broken record there, but it creates tremendous tailwinds. Change management is such a huge part of the citizen process. You're asking leaders to give up time, discretionary time of their team members. You're asking individual contributors to invest time up front to save time in the long run. And when you have a leader like a CFO or CIO in your case kind of articulating the value of this, it really helps the dominoes get in order.
And I can actually add some context to that. Like, there's a particular business unit. This SVP there is like, well, all of my direct reports have to build a bot. So you can imagine VPs and directors all building bots. All of the executive assistants in TBS have actually all built bots. Because he was adamant that to demystify this and create that movement, he felt the leaders had to lead from the front.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. All right, Kevin, you're up. So, the 200 plus citizen developers you guys have and acquired over the last almost 3 years, how are you still finding the means to attract net new citizen developers within CenturyLink to join the citizen program?
Right. So it's almost like a badge of honor. It's like they're adding to your skill set. We sell it as like, advancing your skill set, automating things. And although we're a tech company, but you don't have to be a tech company to, find citizen developers. We have people from our, human resources, from our accounting department, from you name it. It's not just the tech, savvy people that are doing it. It's easy enough, like you said, like the executives are even doing it. Most of your executives are not really technology savvy. It's the platform's easy enough that, by just going through the training, you'll understand exactly how to develop. So we try to sell it as like it's easy enough that anyone can really do it. And what we've done is we've connected our internal training system with UiPath so they can go through the system, our internal training system, and they can get certified through our internal system, but it's yet through UiPath's platform.
Yeah, it's highly integrated, gives you guys the visibility. I remember having conversations with you guys a couple years ago, like, how do we build a career path for RPA?
Right.
Like you were kind of in the early design phases while we were just figuring it out. So it's tremendous. So, a lot of successes. We've been talking about a lot of the highlights and the outcomes. I know for sure it wasn't easy. So maybe if you guys could shed some candid light on what were some of the larger unforeseen challenges you and your teams kind of faced when rolling these out. Latana, you look deep in thought. I'm going to put you first.
The administrative part, right? So you sort of like underestimate the effort that it takes to support the program, right? People are going to have problems, running their bots, and people are going to have problems sometimes configuring their bots the right way. So what we underestimated was, the support that the citizens would require. So lessons learned for us is we now and then have a support system for them. So they have open office hours and they can come have conversations with people that are really, really good to provide guidance to them. That's one thing that we learned. The second thing I'd say is communication. I think communication really should be, in our case, it was centralized. But I think, one of the things we learned was, to accelerate this, it should be decentralized. So people could share their successes in Yammer with their colleagues and sort of like just, go out there and share the message. And in some ways, we initially try to control that. From what we see, it's just important that they just let people just communicate your success, and that's a good thing.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think change management, when you look at any software project rollout strategy, change management tends to get deprioritized. But because of the wide breadth of reach of a citizen program, you're touching many business users, it cannot be an afterthought. And I think across both your programs, you invested in the office hours construct. How do we provide continuing education and outlets for expertise for your citizen developers is a great best practice.
Right.
Kevin,
Speaking
what about
of
you?
continuing education, that's what. So one of the things that we do is when the citizen developers complete their development, we take the bot from them, we run it through our system with our code review, make sure all the tags are done correctly, and then IT owns the bot. We run it for them; they just hands off. So the quality of the development needs to improve over time, right? Because the number of bots are growing. We don't want to have a lot of maintenance in there. So what we did was actually work with UiPath, and we set up something we call it the brown bag sessions, where we bring in one of the experts on a topic and we invite all the citizen developers to attend. So for example, using APIs or using a database as opposed to like screen scraping, just improving the quality of the bots. Has improved the performance of the bots. Less maintenance involved in it.
Right.
So just by using the resources available to us from UiPath, we've been able to improve the quality of the citizen developers, bots that they're creating.
Right. So you heard it from the stage. We're invested beyond the platform to make these citizen journeys better. Now, what was maybe one of the bigger challenges you guys faced early on to your citizen journey at Lumen?
I would say at the beginning, maybe, just finding the citizen developers, but now that, RPA is kind of known in the company, we don't really have that much of an issue. People are interested into getting into RPA. And, it's almost like our text that, when you call our company to, report an issue, they do have technical interest. They want to advance their career. So what we've provided is, a career path for them to get into IT. Well, they're doing development, the costs are there. It's not to IT, it's expensive to hire a lot of, RPA developers as have it part of IT, but now we have them as a part of the business, so that cutting the cost down from IT and not having, and only leaving the complex projects for the IT developers is, is proven to be really successful.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up in terms of the cost structure, and then for the actual developer, speed to output. I'm not waiting online for my task automation to get chosen above a big enterprise process that the COE's going to prioritize. Excellent. So, Latana, back to the topic of, the C-level and executive sponsorship that you guys have had, we do recognize that does come with the expectation of conveying, well, what was the return on my investment in this resourcing strategy? So how have you guys approached measuring the return on citizen developers?
Yeah, so every idea that is built or any project that's undertaken is logged into Automation Hub, and there's a business case. So every month that data is summarized and reported to the executive team, along with some text that provides context as to where the program is and where the program wants to go in the next month or two. That's very important to the executive team because they obviously want to ensure or understand that there's return on investment for what we're doing. So that's what we do. We also maybe the C-suite minus one. We also have a governance with them, right? Whereby because RPA is a program that's governed by a bigger AI program, right? So there is a governance around all of these programs just to ensure that the values that we expect we're actually getting back from the program. So, and that's incredibly important because that way the leaders engage, they understand what's going on, and they can help move big boulders, if you come across them. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, no, I think change manager, you got to communicate out often and up often as well, where the money's coming from. Kevin, at Lumen, the 200 developers you have are across 18 different business units, which is incredible.
Yeah.
How the heck did you get the businesses to 18 different business groups to buy in on quite frankly, a joint investment, right? To assign these individuals, invest in their training? How did you guys go about that?
You just have to build value, for the leadership team. We have, I know our automation journey predates the Automation Hub, so we have an internal tool that's kind of similar to Automation Hub. So I would highly recommend using the Automation Hub to that's what we send our leadership to go in, put in the numbers, how many employees are doing this. It does a calculation for you. It tells you, how much money you're going to save, how long it's going to take. It's just and it puts when they see the real numbers on the screen, it makes sense for them to do that, and everyone's trying to cut down their OpEx. So what a better way to automate the tasks that your employees are doing instead of adding additional headcount to your team. So it's an easy sell when it comes to it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, he's being very humble. The CenturyLink, now Lumen team actually advised our product team and gave a lot of inputs that kind of materialized into the Automation Hub many of you are possibly using today.
Right.
Very cool, very cool. So as we wrap this up, in this audience, we probably have people who are at a juncture you were at 3 years ago, and Latana, you were at just over a year ago. So any words of advice, if they're, for people getting started right now, what would you want to impart on them?
I'd say make it easy, demystify it. make it intuitive for people in such a way that everyone feels comfortable doing this. The other thing is, don't just look at short term. Short term is ROI, right? But there are other benefits that you get that you can't ideally quantify. You are creating a workforce for the future. You're creating people that are comfortable with configuring bots. And sometimes, that's more qualitative, but I think that's just as important as the quantitative data when you're just starting. You want to build a critical mass of capabilities, right, that would, pay back in future. So I think that it's so important to, keep it simple, make it easy. And then finally, don't be too focused if you're starting on, hey, I have to hit this ROI,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the low-hanging fruits at the beginning of your automation, journey is there. So everybody knows, like, oh, I can do this, do that real quickly. But as you mature, you can do other things like risk avoidance, regulatory compliance. You can't really put money on that. Something like regulatory compliance, or risk avoidance for your legal team.
Right.
Instead of having you can't always put money on something that's not tangible, but ROI is a good thing to calculate. But at the beginning, I would say you can focus on ROI, but as you go on, you can it's not just the money that's
right. Many other flavors of benefits.
Other flavors of benefits
right.
that are out there. It's just expand your horizons, and like you said, think long term. How am I going to be able to support this down the road in 2 years, in 3 years? You don't want to have a bunch of bots that are just, running and you have no control of them or don't know what they're actually doing at some point. So documentation, putting a process in place for your citizen developers is really important because they have to have guidelines, they have to understand what the expectations are. So they're developing to a standard that you'll be able to, repeatable standards or reusable components that you're going to be using. So,
yeah, I completely align. So great final thoughts. Make it easy for them. It's frictionless to get engaged, right? And then don't be too short-sighted. Think through your governance model as this scales, because once people get their hands on the technology, and when you get those endorphins from building your first automation and not having to wait in line, the line will form around the door in terms of others that want. So, just thank you so much, Latana, Kevin, the teams behind you at Takeda and Lumen Technologies. I love your story.
Yeah.
I love telling it. And hopefully this won't be the last time you'll be on stage with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you.